Since 2017, Malawi embarked on a development journey with 2063 as its destination. In this edition of MBC Exclusive, I'm joined by the driver of this dream, Dr. Munthali, National Planning Commission's Director General. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much.
My name is Alina Fimlamba. It has been 3 good years since the Vision 2063 agenda started. How has it been?
Well, it's been a lot of progress, but slow progress. And that is why, if you look at the National Planning Commission's mandates, we have fully invoked the second mandate of implementation oversight, because the other one is on helping the country to plan for the medium to long term, which we've done through the setting up of the vision and its first 10-year implementation plan. So because of the slow progress, for a number of reasons, we've had to accelerate that. And I have to be upfront that the slow progress has largely been on 3 key elements, largely. I think you and I know that the exogenous shocks have really affected us big time. Starting with the time when we were launching, COVID was at the peak of it, and then we had all these cyclones and so on and so forth. So linked to that were capacity issues around the ministries, departments and agencies and the non-state actors that were supposed to implement the catalytic interventions that are outlined in the first 10-year implementation plan. And lastly has been the issue of negligence, where we have seen a lot of slow decision-making processes, especially in some of the state institutions as well as the non-state actors. So I think combined, the progress has been slow but can be accelerated.
So how have you managed to deal with this negligence coming from state actors?
So this is where the first enabler of the Malawi 2063 comes very key, and this is about the mindset change. You know, when you're dealing with adults, it's very difficult to just make them change overnight. And this mindset change is going to be a process. Part of it is the importance of having a carrot and stick. We have engaged the Office of the President and Cabinet, and we're excited that the Secretary to the President and Cabinet is already looking into ensuring that there are performance-based contracts for the controlling officers as well as the directors in the various ministries, departments and agencies. And I think this is a culture that is already inculcated in the statutory corporations. And so that has to be extended to the civil service as a whole, because that makes it easier that you can begin to hold each other more accountable. If you know these are your key performance indicators, it's much easier for you to be able to say, look, I think you failed, therefore we may not have to extend your contract, or indeed we cannot transfer you to another agency because you're not doing as well. And we believe that that process, which is under, they're just undergoing due diligence now, is finalized. We should be able to have a civil service and the whole state machinery that is more responsive. And I have to add that the role that the NGO regulatory authority is playing is also key, because it's not just about state institutions that have to deliver. We as a country also have non-state actors that are playing a very important role, and therefore we need to also hold each other accountable, including those non-state actors.
And so how free is the National Planning Commission from political interference, now that you have mentioned that you're also seeking guidance from the Office of the President and Cabinet?
No, it's very independent. If you're going to read our act, the act that established the National Planning Commission, it is very clear in terms of independence. Matter of fact, it says that not even the leadership, the political leadership, can tell us what to do, but we have an obligation to report to the leadership in terms of being accountable on what we are doing based on the mandates. So we believe that the 2 roles, the 2 reporting lines that we have directed to the President as well as to Parliament, gives us more powers in terms of being able to provide the implementation oversight without you looking at the back of thinking, there will be some political powers that will twist our arm anyhow. And I think we should give a very due credit to the political leadership. They've left us to really work very independently and guiding the country in making sure that the plans that we're putting forward are evidence-based. And facts are stubborn. Whether a political party comes today or tomorrow, if you are basing it on facts, it will still remain facts.
We're looking at the office of the President and Cabinet and also Parliament.
Correct.
How and why should Malawians trust you, the National Planning Commission, that you're indeed free from any political interference?
Right, so I think first and foremost, when you are dealing with the Parliament, it's a combination of all political parties. If you are reporting to those to Parliament, including the various parliamentary committees, you deal with not just government members of Parliament, but members of Parliament from all over. So they can be assured that their representation is there to check on the work of the Commission. And at the same time, we have an obligation to make sure that we're reporting in terms of the progress we're making. And if you've been following us, all the reports that we present are simply based on facts. And if we were some other people, we could have been producing reports that are all flowery, trying to support government, they've done this, they've done that, but we've always presented what is happening, what challenges we're faced as a nation, because we believe that if we do not tell the truth, then unfortunately we will not put together solutions that are going to address the challenges that we're facing as a nation.
You've also mentioned that one of the setbacks is climate-induced shocks, which I believe one of which is the cyclones Malawi has faced recently. Can you just tell us, as National Planning Commission, how have you engaged stakeholders to ensure that the country bounces back to the state that it was?
So you see, with climate change, it's not an issue that Malawi alone can address. This would require concerted efforts beyond one country. And that's why you'd find that we support efforts by multilateral institutions, including the United Nations, when they're working around how they can support countries like Malawi on areas like climate change financing. One of the things that we have promoted, working closely with the relevant ministries, departments and agencies, is to promote a resilience of the economy by accessing climate financing and promoting issues of early warning systems, so that our population is able to be forewarned ahead of time and the remedial measures are taken in terms of prevention ahead of time. And I think I also have to mention that you see, almost every country in the world is likely to be faced with the shocks of one kind or another. And for Malawi, the shocks that we faced are not the last. We're likely to be facing more. But the issue should be, how ready are we to be able to meet those challenges? Other countries, what they've done is to have a buffer resource, so that in the time of need, they can tap on it. And so it is quite exciting that, and we should give credit here to the President, that we are now talking the wealth creation agenda by focusing on the productive sectors. If you look at the ATM strategy, it's basically about, can we create wealth, put aside some resources from the mining, from the tourism and agriculture that we make, so that we can have a resource envelope that we can tap on in times of needs when exogenous shocks face us. I have to add quickly that we've also engaged the Presidency that we need to add another M on the ATM.
Which is?
ATMM.
All right.
The idea being, the other M is manufacturing. Because we believe that if you've got a pillar, you recall that the Malawi 2063 is about wealth creation through 3 key pillars. And one of those key pillars is industrialization. If you do not add value to whatever you're producing in the agriculture sector, to the minerals that you're mining, then you are likely to stay in one place for a long while. We don't want to be sending things wrong. And therefore, the President himself has been in the forefront to promote industrialization agenda. For example, now you might have seen he opened the Area 55 industrial parks. There's now the Malawi Development Corporation Holdings Limited that is meant to promote industrialization. And we believe that those efforts should culminate into another M, because the challenge is, if you just tell the development partners, whatever strategy you put in place, it acts as a signal that this is what Malawi is interested in being supported with. And therefore, if you leave the manufacturing, you would risk the fact that you keep on producing raw materials.
Before we continue with the ATM
Yes.
strategy, as you put it,
Mhm.
this just reflect on the 3 years that the 2063 blueprint
Mhm.
has been implemented. Do you think the economic environment has been accommodating for us to achieve 2063 agenda?
Yeah, I think this is a mixed bag because, as I mentioned to you, that there were 3 key elements that have affected our not getting the kind of growth rates that we needed.
On a scale,
On a
has the
scale of,
economic environment been accommodating?
well, I think you can. It's very difficult because then you have to apportion to say part of this is because of what, and I think to the large extent now is because of the exogenous shocks that we faced, and so you are faced with a Minister of Finance and the cabinet and the presidency that has to think through. If there's this cyclone, if there's this COVID, you cannot begin to look at other economic infrastructure when your people are dying. You've got to make sure that first you have to have social protection programs to recover people's livelihoods. And so now we have an opportunity that it seems we are recovering. If you look at the budget, the current budget 2023-2024, the framework is very good. It actually talks really to the productive sectors. For the first time, we've had a budget that is hitting 40% focused on the development budget, which has not happened in a long while. And so the issue now is how do we make sure that framework is followed through into implementation? Because if we look at it, I think the intent is good. Given the resources that we have as a nation, we could have done more, but we don't have much at the moment. So I think we should give credit in terms of moving forward in terms of the framework. So yes, if you ask me, is the environment getting to where we should be? I think we are doing, as a country, the best, but we can do better if we look at the other 2 issues of capacitating ministers, departments, and agencies, especially those that are tasked with the ATM, so that they really are empowered to deliver on those, including holding each other more accountable, including about the performance targets to avoid the negligence that I talked about.
Apart from just reporting to your seniors, which is the Office of the President and
Correct.
Cabinet, as well as Parliament,
Mhm.
on your observations, what else have you done to ensure that these people are held accountable?
No, so I think for us the most important thing is what we've done is where we see that there are quick wins. We've followed through with bilateral engagements, and I think this has begun to pay dividends a lot. We have decided, for example, that we're going to work very closely with the Presidential Delivery Unit, and so PDU is a very strong ally of us. And if you see what the PDU is doing is when we do share the progress that we're making as a nation, they pick on those issues very strongly. I'll give you an example of the most recent signing of the mining development agreements, which have been stalling for a long while. And these were highlighted even in the first 10-year, the first 10-year implementation report progress that we just shared. And what the President's office did was to call all the partners that were responsible for getting this done to the table and giving instructions that within 2 weeks this has to be cleared. And indeed, last week you saw it. The MDA was the MDAs, 2 MDAs at the same day were signed. Again, the issues of visas, excuse me, to the country, that facilitation. So to us, what we're saying is there are other ways, if you see that one door is closed, of getting the same thing done, but making sure that the relevant authorities are actively engaged.
In case you're just tuning in, this is MBC Exclusive. My name is Alinafe Mlamba. My guest today is the Director General of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Thomasi Munthali. I'll be back after this short break. Welcome back. This is MBC Exclusive with me, Alinafe Mlamba. My guest today is the Director General of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Thomasi Munthali. So, Doc, you mentioned that this 2% progress we're making every year is worrisome. Does it mean we're shifting the goal to 2045?
No, we're not shifting. I think what the key message that we're sending is we need to do much more than previously. And we are sending this message as early as now, so that the various key stakeholders have to now realize that if we are doing business as usual, we now have to do things differently. And I think that's why I mentioned to you that we have moved more into the implementation oversight gear, because we want to be able to say who is not doing what and why. Is it a capacity issue? Is it just a negligence issue? So that the key authorities are engaged. Because I don't think we do have the luxury of time, and if there's a people that don't even have more luxury of time are those people that have been put in office by the electorate. And so we want to make sure that we engage the presidents and team to be able to, give us a bigger push, especially the ministries, department and agencies, to accelerate certain things. On the other hand, we want to make sure that we work very closely with the private sector to make sure that we accelerate huge investments at the shortest time possible. So if you ask me, are we shifting the post? No. But the issue is we need to do more than what we had thought we would have to do initially.
With that said, does that mean the National Planning Commission has an issue or noted a fault in those that are put in the office by the electorate?
No, that's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is, development is a political project. When people vote into office, I think they expect certain things to happen, and therefore there is the Malawi 2063, which is the aspirations of Malawians, and one of the things that they really wanted was to come out of the most poor countries of the world by 2030. I think it's a desire of every Malawian to have their incomes move to something else. I think that's why the desire of moving away from poverty reduction to wealth creation is very central. And as I said, it's exciting because if you look at the political leadership, realizing that goal, have already pushed to say, look, let's look at the ATM. I just said we are adding another M, but the issue is to then recognize that as long as we don't create wealth, we will remain where we are. We keep on begging and borrowing.
So both of which are not sustainable. As National Planning Commission, between these two,
yes,
which one are you prioritizing?
Which two?
Wealth creation or poverty reduction?
It's wealth creation, obviously.
Why?
Because that's what the vision is. We went around asking Malawians what they want, and all we did was to put together the aspirations of Malawians. And if you look at our vision, it says inclusive wealth creation and self-reliance. There's no poverty issue there. Because you see, the issue with poverty, which is what we did in Vision 2020, the challenge was, it's like we're waiting for development partners to give us support. But, this is not sustainable. They will not keep on giving you support to the level that they would want to match up with them. If we rely on development partners, we keep on relying on them forever, because they've also got their own vested interests. So the wealth creation agenda is to say, can we help Malawians? Just more or less like we say, don't give somebody fish, but help them how to fish so that they can sustainably do it. And we've agreed as Malawians. By the way, there's a resolution in the Malawi 2063 that in achieving this wealth creation and self-reliance agenda will not allow any state-owned and state actor to derail us. So the Malawians have spoken very clear in that, and the voices of the youth who were part of the envisioning, we actually had a co-advisory panel comprising of 12 youth from across the country that were like the Anzero Agumawa, the wise of the East that were guiding us on all this. They had a message from their fellow youth, clearly cut: wealth creation.
All right. So how have you been able to incorporate those in rural setups apart from the youths, as you had to bring them in? Did you also consult to say, what is it that you want? Because if we to look at politicians,
yes, they
will tell you, no, let's reduce poverty for these people. As NPC, what's your take on this?
No, we went across the whole country. We crisscrossed this country, in Sanje to Chitipa, everywhere. And the youth were just our eyes and ears in terms of what else, could we have been missing out, because they represented youth organizations and stuff like that. They normally would meet from time to time, so they know the language, the issues that the youth have been having. Just also mention that specifically with regard to the local councils, fortunately for us as a nation, almost all the local council development plans, came to an end at the same time. And so we are now supporting technically, in conjunction with the Ministry of Local Government, all the local councils to come up with new district development plans and city plans. And in there, what is central is wealth creation and self-reliance. We want to make sure that the district development plans should not be perpetually relying on central government. They've got a lot of endowments, resource endowments in the areas that they sit in. So they have to make sure that they are supported in utilizing those resources to be able to mobilize resources so that they can support their social sectors, education, health, water and sanitation and all that without recourse to development partners or central government. This is going to be a process, but once we have started off on catalyzing those investments, then we are gradually trying to sieve off from development partner support, from central government support. With time, we should be self-reliant as district councils.
We are a country well known for putting up very good and brilliant strategies,
yes,
yet zero implementation.
Yeah.
As NPC,
I wouldn't say zero. But maybe low implementation levels, because there's been some implementation. I mean, then there wouldn't be some development. I think the case for Malawi is that we are developing, whether one likes it or not, but we are developing at a very slow pace. And so we need to play catch up, not just with our neighbors, but ourselves. And one of the beauties of having the National Planning Commission was that second mandate that I told you about, implementation oversight. Because the framers of the Act realized that we can have very good plans, but if you don't have an institution that follows through with, so where are we? What is not causing us to move forward, or what is regressing us, and so on, then we'll be back to the same issues. So we believe that what we've started as a nation, we should build on it to have this National Planning Commission follow through with the elements that I just talked about here. So I strongly believe that with the vision, for example, 2020, we didn't have milestones set to say, okay, by 2, 3, 4 years, how will we be telling that we're making progress or not? For the Malawi 2063, we agreed as a nation to say, let's put milestones. So for the first 10 years, we said the two most important milestones is let's graduate out of the low income to at least low middle income and meet most of the sustainable development goals, because by 2030 they will be coming to an end. So whatever efforts we're doing are guiding us on what we need to do. If you have an entity that is doing that, even if you miss by an inch, you have to say, if we missed, what caused us to miss? Because to me, missing sometimes is a possibility, even at a household level. You can have your plans, but they may not materialize. The most important question is, what am I doing about it? And I think having a body that helps you to always recognize and ask yourselves, what are we doing, is very important, because even the authorities up there will be relying on this body to say, so what do you want us to do more? And I think that kind of guidance, based on evidence, is very critical.
Much as you're trying to play catch up with the neighboring countries
and ourselves,
can you tell us how are you balancing between short-term and long-term goals? Well,
so you have no choice in this case, because by nature of the National Planning Commission mandates itself, we are supposed to be planning medium to long term. But for you to do that, you have got to make sure that your short-term plans, in this case, for example, the national budget, talks to those long to medium-term plans. And the beauty is that those that we are framing the National Planning Commission in the law, they realize that the ministry responsible for financing has to be part of the commission. That is why the vice chairperson of the commission is the secretary responsible for economic planning in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, so that there's an umbilical cord in terms of the long-term plans that you've set yourself for the nation. In the short term, how are you resourcing them? And I think that is very central. And as I mentioned earlier on, our national budget framework, if you look at it this year, it's really talking to that vision framework. What is important for us is to make sure that the quality of expenditure is also followed through. Because oftentimes, sometimes in the past, it has happened, not just with just one regime, but a number of regimes, where what is in the budget and what is happening on the ground is different. So what we are doing as the National Planning Commission, in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, are having to follow through, tracking those budgets. Are we really putting the monies where it was meant to be? The whole reason is, if we don't track that, there will be disconnect between the short-term plans and the long-term planning.
And that's what I had for you in this edition of MBC Exclusive. My name is Alina Femlamba, and my guest today was the Director General of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Thomasi Munthali. Until next time, goodbye.